Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive?
Always ready.
Today we're tackling a topic that's bound to get people talking. Love and money in relationships.
Ah, yes, a classic conundrum.
We found this online discussion that just blew up, and it really got us thinking about how different generations view this whole dynamic.
Oh yeah, the generational divide, always fascinating.
Have you ever wondered, really wondered, if people are more likely to marry for love or money?
It's a question as old as time, isn't it?
But this conversation, well, it brought up some pretty surprising modern twists. Like, for example, this one statement that really set things off. It said, "Men pray for good women, while women pray for rich men."
Whoa, that's a bold statement right out the gate.
I know, right? Talk about starting a debate.
It definitely plays into some pretty deep-seated assumptions about what each gender supposedly wants in a partner.
Yeah, like this idea that men are all about finding a partner who's, I don't know, virtuous.
While women are more focused on financial security.
Exactly. And of course, you had people on both sides of the fence. Some were like, yep, that's how it is.
While others were outraged, calling it sexist and outdated.
But here's the thing. Even those who disagreed, they couldn't help but engage with the idea. It's like it hit a nerve.
Well, yeah, those beliefs about gender roles and relationships, they're like woven into the fabric of our culture. Hard to ignore.
Totally. And then things got even more heated when the whole generational debate exploded.
Oh, here we go. The kids these days argument.
Right. Some people were absolutely convinced that Gen Z is way more obsessed with money and relationships than any generation before them.
So basically, young people today just want a partner who can fund their lavish lifestyle.
That was the general idea, yeah. In fact, one commenter, Damaski, actually called it an epidemic, said the money factor is at epidemic proportion, especially among young women.
Oh, wow. Strong words.
Yeah, but not everyone agreed. Another commenter, Alan the Great, they actually pushed back pretty hard.
Oh, what did they say?
They argued that this isn't anything new. They pointed to tons of historical examples of young women marrying older, wealthier men for financial security.
That's a good point. Like, is it really a Gen Z thing? Or is it just human nature repeating itself throughout history?
That's what they were getting at. This isn't some sudden shift. It's been happening for ages.
Makes you wonder, have we really progressed as much as we think we have?
Right. Like, are we just seeing the same patterns play out in a new context?
Exactly. Are we holding up a mirror to society and not liking what we see?
And that's what this deep dive is all about. We're exploring these complex issues and challenging those assumptions. We're not here to give you easy answers.
Oh, absolutely not. There's no right or wrong here.
We just want to present different perspectives, sometimes conflicting arguments, and let you decide what resonates with you.
Empowering listeners to form their own opinions. That's the goal.
Totally. Now, one of the most interesting threads that emerged from this online discussion was the role of parents.
Oh, that's always a juicy topic.
Right. One commenter, Uche, argued that parents who instill self-belief and confidence in their children can help them avoid seeking financial security through relationships.
That makes sense. If you raise your kids to value themselves and their abilities, they'll be less likely to feel like they need to marry for money.
Exactly. It's all about upbringing and shaping values. But then another commenter, Tunde Owasedo, they brought up a completely different point of view.
Oh, what was that?
They argued that some parents today actually prioritize financial gain over character when they're considering their children's partners.
Wow, that's pretty thought-provoking.
It is. Like, are we raising a generation that's more concerned with a partner's bank account than their heart?
That's a valid question, isn't it?
Right.
What are we prioritizing as a society?
And to make things even more complicated, another commenter, Oliyinka Taiwo, shared a story about a friend who felt trapped in an unhappy marriage to a billionaire.
Why was she trapped?
Because of family obligations? Her parents had basically pressured her into the marriage.
Oh, no, that's awful, even though she was miserable.
Yeah, but they insisted she stay because her husband had essentially, I don't know, bought their loyalty.
That's heartbreaking. Money can really complicate things.
It's true. It can create all sorts of pressures and traps.
And Oliyinka's story, it's a powerful reminder that money doesn't guarantee happiness.
Nope, it definitely doesn't. And sometimes family pressures can overshadow what someone really wants.
It's not always a simple choice, is it?
No, it's definitely not. This whole discussion, it's about So much more than just gold diggers versus
Right,
romantics.
it's way deeper than that.
We're talking about family dynamics, societal expectations, and the pressure to maintain a certain social status.
It's about individual dreams colliding with these larger societal forces.
And it's easy to make generalizations about these things.
Oh, for sure. We all do it.
But as this conversation shows, everyone's experience is unique.
Every relationship, every family has its own story.
Exactly. And reducing these complex dynamics to simple binaries, it just doesn't capture the nuance of real life.
You're right. It's important to remember that. It's like we can get so caught up in the individual choices, you know?
Yeah, like are they a gold digger or not?
Right. But we forget about all those bigger systems at play.
And then this commenter, TaylorMade, jumped in with a solution.
A solution for the whole love and money dilemma.
Yeah, they said we should be encouraging young people to create their own wealth.
Interesting. So the idea is if everyone's financially secure, they won't need to marry for money.
That's the gist of it. Empowerment through entrepreneurship, all that jazz.
Sounds good in theory, but is it that simple?
Well, that's where things get interesting, because another commenter, Uch, pointed out that even in wealthy circles, marriages are often very strategic.
Strategic? In what way?
It's not always about love or even just plain money.
So what is it about then?
It's about forming powerful alliances.
Alliances.
Yeah, business partnerships, strengthening social connections.
Oh, I see. Maintaining a certain level of power and influence.
Exactly. And Uche brought up some examples from Nigeria. Like the Saraki and Tehoso families, they're both super prominent in business.
Okay. And what about them?
Well, Uche's point was that these families, they often marry within their own circles.
So even if someone from a less privileged background becomes successful,
They might still face barriers when it comes to those elite social circles.
because marriage and family ties are so intertwined with all of that.
Right. It's like this whole other level of social stratification.
So it's not just about individual ambition and hard work.
There are these larger systems that can limit social mobility, even for those who achieve financial success.
Which brings us back to TaylorMade's solution. While promoting financial literacy is great.
It doesn't necessarily address those deep-seated systems of inequality.
Exactly. There's only so much you can achieve on your own when you're up against those kinds of structures.
This is heavy stuff. We started talking about love and money.
And now we're diving into power dynamics and social class.
Right. It's all connected. And just when I thought the conversation couldn't get any deeper,
What happened?
Alan the Great chimed in with this really thought-provoking statement. They said that the whole pursuit of financial security in relationships, it's a fundamental sociological issue.
Ooh, that's a good one. What did they mean by that?
Well, they argued that both the wealthy and the poor are driven by a desire for stability, just from different angles.
That's interesting. So how does that play out?
The wealthy want to maintain their position, ensure their kids inherit those advantages.
And the poor are striving to escape poverty, create a better life for their family.
Exactly. Two sides of the same coin, in a way.
It's like those motivations are deeply ingrained in our societal fabric.
So it's not just about individual choices or personal values.
It's about understanding those larger societal forces that are at play.
Wow, this deep dive is really making me rethink everything I thought I knew about love and money.
That's the power of good conversation.
Right, it challenges your assumptions, makes you see things from new perspectives.
And hopefully helps us understand the world a little bit better.
So where do we go from here? We've heard so many different perspectives.
Some say Gen Z is all about the money. Others say it's always been this way.
And then there's the idea of promoting financial independence as a solution.
But what does it all mean? It's a lot to process, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, what are we supposed to take away from all of this?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway for me is that there's no easy answer. Love and money, they're just so intertwined.
Yeah, it's definitely not as simple as saying people marry for love or are for money.
Right, it's way more nuanced than that. Like, we talked a lot about generational differences.
Oh, yeah, the whole Gen Z is obsessed with money thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I wonder if maybe, and hear me out on this, maybe some of those perceptions are more about individual circumstances than about entire generations.
You know, I was thinking the same thing. Like, we lump everyone into these big categories.
But the reality is, within any generation, you're going to find a huge range of values and experiences.
Right, so maybe instead of focusing on those generational labels.
We should try to understand each other as individuals.
Exactly. Regardless of our age or background, everyone has their own story.
And their own reasons for making the choices they make.
This whole deep dive has really got me thinking about my own beliefs and values. Like, what do I prioritize in a relationship?
That's great. It's all about self-reflection and challenging your own assumptions.
And being open to different perspectives, even if they make you uncomfortable.
That's key. It's easy to judge others' choices, but often there's a lot more going on beneath the surface.
Like Olayinka's friend, stuck in that marriage because of family pressure. It just shows you never really know the whole story.
Right. So much of this comes down to empathy and understanding. We all have different experiences that shape our worldview.
And just because someone makes a choice we wouldn't make.
Doesn't mean they're wrong.
Exactly. It's about respecting each other's choices, even if we don't agree with them. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious, what's your final takeaway?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's about remembering that love and money are these powerful forces that shape our lives in countless ways.
And how they intersect can be messy and complicated.
Oh yeah, for sure. But instead of shying away from that complexity, let's embrace it. Let's have those tough conversations, challenge our own biases, and maybe, just maybe, we can create a world where love and happiness aren't so tightly bound to financial security.
That's a beautiful thought. A world where everyone has the freedom to pursue love and happiness on their own terms.
Exactly. It's a lofty goal, but I think it's worth striving for.
I agree. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive, but the conversation doesn't have to end here.
Keep thinking about these issues. Talk to your friends and family.
What resonated with you? What surprised you?
And how does all of this relate to your own life and relationships?
We'd love to hear your thoughts. And until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.
See you on the next deep dive.
Bye, everyone.